Welcome to the Covenant Podcast. The Covenant Podcast exists to equip listeners with theological content from a 1689 Baptist perspective. We're on the Man of God Network, brought to you by Covenant Baptist Theological Seminary. And I have the author of a modern exposition of the 1689 London Baptist Confession of Faith with me, Dr. Sam Waldron. It's good to be with you, Professor Sam.
Good to be here.
In this conversation, I want to just have a very brief dialogue about some books that have been helpful to you in your ministry. And the reason why I want to bring this subject to your attention is that there are many books that we could read, but Ecclesiastes says that in the studying of many books, there is weariness to the flesh.
Yeah.
And so if we could just focus on a few books in your life that have been helpful to you in your own personal ministry, what would you recommend to our audience that they should pick up and read?
Yeah. Wow, it's so hard to narrow it down to a few books, isn't it? But especially after being in the ministry for 45 to 50 years now. But I always have to come, first of all, to John Murray. And, of course, to his Redemption Accomplished and Applied, but also to his commentary on Romans, which has been enormously helpful and significant in my own growth. And then I think I go on from there to a book like Principles of Conduct, which contains the essence of his ethics, and, of course, a number of things in his collected writings. Now, I also have to mention here that I found enormous help in John Calvin's Institutes of the Christian Religion, and have read parts of it many times, recommended parts of it many times, and read all the way through it carefully at least once or twice, if I recall. So those are some of the things that come first to mind, although I'm sure I'm neglecting many other things when I mentioned those.
Would it be fair to say that you reckon John Murray to be one of your dead theological mentors or figures in the faith that have been really helpful to you? And if so, would you commend other CBTS students finding solid, trusted, dead theological mentors that they should deeply study?
Sure. I think there's some truth in the argument of not a few that you should find one particular man to try to master. I know for many that's John Owen or Jonathan Edwards. For me, it's John Calvin. He seems such a significant figure in church history and at the pivot of so many things that happened at the Reformation. So, yeah, I would recommend others to do that, especially some of the older writings. But yes, John Murray is someone that I would recommend. Of course, I don't agree with everything John Murray said. I'm not an infant Baptist, and he defended infant baptism. I don't agree with his interpretation of Romans 11 either, although I did for a while early on in my life. But I think, nonetheless, I guess what I'm saying is that we should read even our favorite guys with a critical eye and with a biblical norm ever present to us. But Murray and Calvin for me have been the main guys, the guys that have been really helpful.
You've heard it. Murray and Calvin from Dr. Waldron. Dr. Waldron, thanks for answering my questions, especially with no preparation, impromptu, being willing to sit down and take up these questions for this discussion.
Well, you're very welcome, Austin.
And to our listeners, we wish you grace and peace. God bless.